Welcome back, and today we are playing out the premium, yes you heard it right, SU-30. We now have a premium flanker with Fox 3s in the game, and before I get into this entire video, this is not an ad. I will not recommend you to buy this thing if you are a newer player, but I do want to talk about this plane in an objective manner, and so I will. I do think it's a great introduction to top tier overall. You have a manageable flight model, you have 6 pretty decent Fox 3 missiles. They are basically export R77s. They are not the best, but they get the job done, and at 13.3 you have more missiles and more kit than a lot of the 13.0s have. Think of the FRF Ice, think of the JA37DI, or God forbid, think about a Harrier. So if you do want an introduction to Fox 3 combat, I do think that this is one of the better planes to play. It's unfortunately tainted by the massive price tag. It's a little bit unfortunate, and because of this I would recommend to wait for a sale for 40 bucks. It's still expensive, but it's also a rank 8 premium in the Russian tech tree, and it's a tech tree that has a lot to offer. So I do think it's worth it in the sense of it being a premium, but I don't think it's worth the price tag overall. Now, if you bought it anyway, or you're looking to spend the money regardless, feel free to use my decal link. You'll get the decal. I will be cycling it out by December roughly. We are working on a new one, and if it's not done on time, we will revert back to the skill issue one. You support the channel, you get a 3% discount. It's not much, but you help the channel and yourself a little bit along the way. What is the SU-30 like? Well, in terms of the flight model, other than the SU-33, it's one of the worst flankers to play. You have a little bit of extra weight. You don't have the thrust vectoring of the SU-30 that you will find at 14.3. You don't have canards, and overall you don't have the improved engines. The airframe itself isn't that great, but the flankers are a lot better than they used to be, and it's actually decently serviceable. We now have R73s with HMD like you are used to on these planes, meaning that the lack of flight performance is helped a little bit by the close range R73 HMD combo, because you don't have to get the nose as close to your enemies. But close range fights don't really happen anymore. The flight performance is all about missile combat, how much energy you can store into the missiles and how much energy you can retain while trying to notch. This is okay at best, but it's definitely one of the weaker parts about the plane. The flight performance is not the best, especially considering most of your games are going to be 14.3. Now luckily, when you get fully up-tiered, you will only see a maximum of 4 of these planes, so maybe 4 Raviolis, 4 Typhoons, or perhaps 16 F-15Es. 14.0 doesn't get this limit, so the matchmaker is going to be your biggest enemy, together with the radar. The radar is a little bit finicky because you can only alter the range, and this means that the scan rate is never affected. It's a little bit slow, it leaves a bit to be desired, so I like to just use HMD mode. The R77s aren't that good beyond 20 kilometers anyway, so I find this a very good compromise. The way I've been playing this thing is by actually going to about 6 to 7 kilometers and just kind of sit there. The contrails have been moved to about 9 kilometers on the warmer map, so I don't get spotted across the map anymore. And this means that when I get everyone spotted on the deck by my teammates, I can simply put my nose down and start launching missiles all over the place. Now this doesn't always work out perfectly, of course, because you do need to be aware of your surroundings. And yesterday I had a major lapse in judgment. Basically, I wasn't really hearing the RWR. I was zoning out 24/7, and I did eat a lot of missiles that I shouldn't have. I had no idea where they were coming from. I'm not sure if this is due to the launch day or if it was just because I just got done with a very long shift, but it was a pain in the ass. But this is how I would still recommend you to play if you are on your A game. If you really just want to farm and grind as much as you can and don't care about dying, I mean, it's up to you. You have 6 Fox 3s, you have an HMD, you can probably figure it out. But I like to play this thing a little bit more reserved, because I don't want to get locked in a close range fights with a Ravioli, for example. I mean, who does? But let's be honest, it is still a flanker, and it's not a great one at that when it comes to the flight performance. So I like to keep everyone at an arm's length. The issue is the R77 doesn't really have that ability, so you do need to push into enemies' no escape zones, and this is kind of concerning. Now luckily because the contrails are now moved up, you are able to move about a little bit more freely. You don't instantly get spotted by everyone on the deck, because before, if anyone looked up on the deck, they could spot you because you were only 5 kilometers away, and if you went any higher, you'd have a contrail, and now they don't even have to look at you to see exactly where you are. So now, being a little bit more sneaky is actually a viable way of playing the game, and I think this is a pretty decent change. I do have to kind of get used to it still, because, well, people are also going to be more invisible to me. I've definitely noticed this in the worst way possible. People come out of absolutely nowhere, and I do think that this is just something that we all have to get used to again, and in a week or so from now I think that this will all stabilize and the gameplay will be a little bit more fluid again. Right now it's very rigid. We're all trying to touch and feel where everyone is, what's gonna happen, and this makes everyone a little bit more edgy. Everyone is kind of nervous and everyone kind of plays reserved, and because of this, basically the gameplay becomes very stiff, and you can see, or you can tell, that this happens in the background. Everyone is kind of scattered all over the place. This is an enduring confrontation map, and I think this is a good kind of map for this plane. Yes, we don't have any range. Yes, we have to push into their no escape zone, and there can be people everywhere, and our radar isn't the best for finding people, but it also means there's a lot more gaps of where I can fly when no one is looking. Just like right here. You just lock him up in an R73, he doesn't flare properly, and he eats it directly up his asshole. We disengage, and you can tell in the background that I'm really just touching, feeling, keeping everyone at arm's length, looking at my RWR. The RWR is actually pretty good. I'm a big fan of it. No one near as bad as something like the SU-27 at 13.0. That's like, yeah, there's something coming at you, probably. I don't know. It's also not a digital RWR that tells you how many hairs someone has on his ballsack, but overall it's more than enough information to make work, especially at 13.3. And then lastly, we have the countermeasures. We have a good amount of them, but keep in mind they pop single, so you do need to press your keys a little bit more often if you actually want a meaningful amount of countermeasures floating in the air. Now let's take a look at some more gameplay. I just talked over the last one where I was just kind of touching and feeling. Here is a smaller map, and I'm gonna try to do the exact same thing. I'm at a decent amount of altitude. I'm not too high this time, but it's because I noticed everyone at the start to be deck hugging, so I'm gonna fly a little bit lower as well to just get a little bit closer. The closer you get with the missile, the more powerful it actually is, and thus the likelihood of getting a kill becomes that little bit bigger. Shoot a missile off at this target over here, no idea what it is, I preemptively notch. He is already going defensive and he eats it directly on the forehead. We killed the Diddler in his F-14, absolutely terrific name, and we kind of just cleared this side of the map, and for now there's nothing for me to do anymore. Now I'm getting locked by a MiG-29 from the front, and I'm getting an RWR warning from a F-15 in the front as well. And here we get a launch warning, and it's decently close, but it's not directly on top of me, and I see some F-15 spotted over there on the map, so I think it's just bleed through, and I'm going to be ignoring the warning. Now this is something that I used to not do because I was absolutely petrified of getting railed by some random missile, but you need to take a little bit of risk. If every RWR warning sets you off and makes you go completely apeshit, you are probably never going to get anywhere. And this time around, it happened to be true. Very often it is. There are cases where the missile will actually slam you straight out of the air, but this is something that you just have to accept with 16v16. Now I'm looking at this MiG-29, and I thought that my friendly SU-27 was shooting at him. That's why I wasn't actually firing at him. But it turns out he wasn't, and I'm going to switch targets to the second one on the deck as well. We severe the MiG-29, we shoot the other guy on the deck. Absolutely perfect teamwork that is completely accidental, but we're just gonna gloss over that, and just like that we get a quick 5 kills. And 5 kills will net you about 16,000 resource points. Keep in mind it's a little bit less because I'm not researching anything, and that batch was incredibly short, but that's unfortunately just how top tier works right now. Unfortunately, with the RP being tied to the time spent in the game, shorter games just don't really net you all that much. Now here we lock onto a guy, he turns around and he instantly beelines it straight back to the airfield. But if you go cold, and someone shoots at you from 8 kilometers at high altitude, you really need to start notching that missile. You need to turn in, because if you don't, you are just going to straight up eat it. The issue is, of course, when you turn in, I'm going to be starting to catch you. But going cold in an F-15E does not guarantee your survival. And the last game here is more of just a showcase of the plane. It's more of the same, really. But there are some things happening here that I do want to quickly gloss over. We have an Su-33 that's dogfighting one of our friendlies. I'm going to wait for the Su-33 to cross over and get closer to me so that the Fox 3 doesn't actually pick him up. I'm going to keep him locked for a little bit longer just so that I don't end up team killing my teammate. Now, unfortunately, bro literally cobras out of the way. A little bit unfortunate, but it's important to hold your fire and not fire missiles through your friendlies. And it's the same thing right here. My friendly is merging. I'm not going to be firing an R-77 that's flying in tandem with him. And then the missile arrives at about the same time as your teammate does. And then you end up killing him. You get a massive penalty. You kill a teammate and it's all just not fine and dandy. And then lastly, we have this F-16 here. He's dogfighting Holly. And I can fire at him right now. Is that a good idea? No. I'm waiting for Holly to go down, to separate a little bit. I'm going to maintain this lock. And the missile will now hit him and not my squad mate. Now, it doesn't actually hit him, but luckily I have 3 more that I'm about to just launch his way. And the only reason I'm showing you this is because I just want to warn the people that are new to top tier to hold your fire, because you are responsible for the missiles that you put in the air. Thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.